Chill here with Sirius Talis Moon. This is Soul Hour. And the moon is 11 degrees Gemini, about to go to 12 degrees Gemini. Midheaven is with Black Moon Lilith, 25 degrees Scorpio. Ascendant ruled by Saturn. And I want to talk about the crystal malachite. So, malachite is actually um, a crystal that we use topically, which means that for those that use crystals internally, this one is a bit toxic. Okay, so that's not recommended unless it's like well coated or something. Um, and it's associated with both Venus and Mars. The unique thing about malachite is that it absorbs energy. So whether a person suffers from something physical or mental, malachite has a property that will absorb and almost vacuum into itself the energy. So for this time where Venus is going through Scorpio, the work with malachite can assist us in confronting the things that anyway we will confront. Now, malachite has very scorpionic quality in the sense that it pulls the energies into it. Thus, it is used usually to carry for safety when driving, when traveling, protecting from danger, sometimes absorbing shock. And this is a crystal that can be purified, but it will also work in a scorpionic way in the sense that whether the user is prepared or not, malachite is going to, by absorbing the energy blocks into it, pull up all the things that need to be transmuted in the psyche of the person. So it's a stone of transformation. It works differently than moldavite. Moldavite is a different story. Okay, moldavite is also transmutation, but it's energizer crystal, which means it will increase things. There's another crystal that works on that frequency. I would need to remember its name. But malachite works differently. It absorbs the energy. So it's very good if somebody is going through a Scorpio transit, then it's compatible to use malachite because Scorpio energy, whatever goes through Scorpio, works like a malachite. It will anyway be transmuted. So whatever goes through scorpionic phase will anyway be transmuted. And this is why, while just working with malachite is not something that I would recommend all across the board, but if anyway something goes through Scorpio, it's better to have something that assists in processing that energy. Malachite will pull up the psychosexual issues at hand to be examined in the light. Those who try to place curse on malachite, they will be receiving its energy. What do I mean by that? Because it's absorbing energy. Let's say you're wearing malachite and somebody tries to attack you. This will operate in such a way, because the malachite is absorbing the energy, it would not just protect you, it would tackle the core issue of why were you attacked, and for the ones that attacked you, why were they attacking? So it's not about diagnosing why somebody attacked you. I mean, it can be, but I don't use it in that way. It's about the fact that anyway, that which sent something malefic to the person, whether intentionally or not, by the way, it could be just going to a place that has certain energies, and Malachite will pull the energy into itself, thus releasing the energy block, and what is left underneath? The actual core reason. Those that try to curse the Malachite, basically it works kind of like martial artist. Martial artists will take energy and transmute it. Malachite absorbs energy, so it works like a vacuum to the energy that was sent, creating a disempowerment of that which sought to disempower the person that's wearing the Malachite. Now, what happens if you try, let's say, to steal Malachite from another person? Well, the Malachite will work as a scorpionic vehicle that facilitates you going into the depth of your own well and going through the entire process, even if you drop that Malachite. Just the fact that you try to get a hold of somebody's Malachite, it will force you through transmutation. It's like people with planets in Scorpio. I have 3 planets in Scorpio. Anybody that tried to attack me found themselves going into the deep. Okay? Now, it's not this, it's essentially it's not a bad thing because it's about transmuting what was keeping a person stuck and therefore believing that they have to attack somebody. The process is not pleasant. It's Scorpio. So, before Venus ingressed into Scorpio, I bought a Malachite and I felt kind of resistance because certain people felt that it would expose the psychosexual problems. And it did. But I insisted on that Malachite intuitively because I said, hey, I'm wearing it for me. And now that Venus is in Scorpio, I can say that it's a position where anyway something is said to be transmuted. And the best is if somebody works with that Malachite, whether it's frequency or not, and that Malachite absorbs but the energy which creates a trajectory. It creates a trajectory where one is aware that they're going to go through transformation. That's the best thing to do when something crosses Scorpio. It's like, hey, Venus is going to cross Scorpio. My values are about to be transmuted. And I'm going to get into the deep psychological, sexo-psychological source of the issue within me. Why does it bother me? Why does it come up? And what to do about this. What to transmute. So, Malachite can facilitate meeting those issues and transmuting them while protecting the person from the psychic attacks and or accidents and or energies that could have hold onto those things that need to be transmuted. transmuted. Now, those that work and serve, you know, the dark, they don't like malachite because this will pull up from the moment of conception. Anybody that was exposed to through this post, okay, it will pull up from the moment of conception what the core issue is, and it's going to be in the light. So they are going to be forced to address that and address how that affected their lives and other people's lives. For this reason, it's a great crystal for what people call shadow work or transmutation work. Now, it's a very intuitive crystal. I like to put it in the soil, just rub it into the soil. Normally I would leave it in the soil, but I like to have some soil. And soil is very good for the nervous system, particularly if we water the soil. It's going to make me look funny because I sit drinking a cafe and going to pour some water into my hand with the soil and watch what it does to my nervous system. Immediately it released something in my nervous system. Water. Now I have advice to you. Take some water, and if you find soil, whether something grows on it or not, water the soil. It will both remind you to drink water, and you will see how something in your nervous system releases. Now I'm going to be even funnier because I'm going to put the soil with the malachite next to my third eye, and immediately there are attempts to sexually attack me, and something coming up in the frequency. Something is concerned, like an energy of a being that is concerned, shaken. Some energy is shaken, concerned. Now, because of the energy of water, it is good to work with silver. For some people, it might be good to work with copper. Not all people. For me, I found copper. Just people were making constructions, and I literally found some copper wire thrown into the soil, thrown on the ground. And I said, well, cannot be a coincidence. So the energy that I feel is something that is shaking, maybe out of fear and trauma. And there was an attempt to project into my field, shaking out of fear and trauma of sexual trauma. And the soil and the water creates improvement in the situation. And I have my emerald. Don't get excited. It's about $10 to $15 bracelet of emerald. It's raw emerald, and emerald is good as well for this time. more of a Venus, more of a Taurian related. And this connects the root chakra with the heart chakra. Now wrapping the crystals in soil, because the crystals came from the depth of the earth. So reconnecting them with the soil purifies them, regenerates them, and the soil and water. Kind of feel like my malachite needs more water. And I can bring the water back to the soil. Um, yes, I spilled the water on the cup of coffee. I know, people with crystals act funny. But one of the good things about acting funny is that it keeps the person from automated reactions. And back to the malachite. Oh, it feels happy. You know, with the malachite, when you nourish the malachite, because it absorbs energy, then we want to nourish the malachite with good energy, with soil energy, with water, clear water. I have shungite in my water. But now shungite since 2022 is difficult to get from Russia because they banned it or something. So putting silver in the water, silver coins, is the energy of the moon, then that can also cover up for that. And you see, when you put the malachite in the soil and water, immediately it looks greener, fresher, nourished. It may even like frozen or iced soil and water. Okay, it's cold temperature. It likes cold temperature sometimes, or colder temperature. Now, another thing to do with the malachite, especially now with the sun, when there's a luminary sun or moon, one can observe the malachite, and that can clear residues for the people that are that have spine through eyeballs. Looking and observing malachite will send those who do this type of thing into their own spiral with their own psychosexual problems. Um, which means that if they chose to infiltrate your field with a penetrative gaze, or to gaze through you at the world, they're scheduled to go through their own shadow work, and because they violated your field, they can't. Okay, that's the implication. um, but again, it's and here's the thing: for the ones holding the malachite, they agreed to go through this transmutation. For the ones running into the person holding the malachite, they weren't expecting to run into a Scorpio field. And they're going to have to address their own issues. Now, Midheaven was with Black Moon Lilith, which we know has to do with sexual sovereignty, and in Scorpio, also in the ether. So Malachite can assist in that. Another crystal that can work well with it is snowflake obsidian. Let's see if I have. Yes, I do. Ooh, yay. I do have the snowflake obsidian. And snowflake obsidian, I kind of feel that she really liked ice. Not ice, the brown shirts ice. Okay. And again, I'm going to put it in the soil. Grab some soil. And water the soil. Weird as it is, it's going to bring a lot of clients to the coffee, that's for sure. Because yes, because right now I do this, there's nobody sitting here and they're probably almost closing. Okay, so right now it's like, this is not a problem for me doing this, but because it's basically energy work and it transmutes the energy, it will bring abundance to the place where I'm doing that. Nice place, they sell cheese. Just bought cheddar cheese at a very good price on the cheddars. Basher. They have 70 types of cheese. So, for those who like cheese, this is heaven. And the snowflake obsidian is another stone, not unlike the malachite, that is emergency grounding, and put it with the malachite. Having some soil in my hands is always nourishing. And if you put it with the malachite, it helps to ground us through the malachite process. So I recommend having some snowflake obsidian. Again, the better resourced the crystal, the better. If you don't have access to the good resourced crystal, you can set the intention, because this will pull the energy also of those who do mining with not good conditions. Okay, and you can set intention, because those who enslave miners, and they usually enslave miners in mining, like Kendrick Lamar, it's probably a miner, then they will be forced to deal with their psychosexual problems. Why they do that to children or to people, women, I don't know. So again, this is reconnection with the soil and the water, balancing nervous system. Now, what else do we know about soil? It filters the water. Okay, when we water soil, we create nourishment, and that later permeates to well water, which is Scorpio. The deep changes, and it also, when we do that, or when we hold the soil with the crystals in our hand, it basically absorbs the toxins from our body. Now again, it's not detoxification like fasting and so on, but it assists in energetically pulling in what's basically not serving us and then transmuting it into the soil. Um, so Scorpio really likes this type of processes. They're muddy, they're messy, but they are deep and they are transforming and transmuting. Now, this is also when we begin to develop the sense for for the work we are doing. Having later the Malachite, even with some soil, immediately attempt to sexually assault me, um, which confronts immediately those who try to sexually assault me with their psychosexual problems. It's particularly those that didn't want women to have connection with the soil and the water because they felt disempowered. Okay? And again, there were rituals done on soil that were negating psychosexual well-being of tenants, residents, people. And this is also interesting because making that messy process with the soil is basically causing um, us to behave in an unusual way, okay, that has logic, internal logic. And this is exactly Scorpio. Scorpio, when we talk about Venus, for example, is not about the moral of society. And I don't mean by that being immoral. I mean by that it's not about the facade regulations of society. What is this person doing in a cafe dit is niet normaal. Remember that is that dit is niet normaal. And then they have the new normals with the masks. When you sit, you can take down mask. When you stand then or walk around, then you need to put mask. Why? Nothing to do with COVID. These are the rules. So this is a process that really uncovers yes, it really uncovers those people, and I would join kyanite, blue kyanite, because blue kyanite is sealing our aura and improving our speech, particularly good for Mercury shade type of period. Somebody talks about his divorce. There are many people that don't want people to have their own wealth, their own soil, their own psychosexual well-being. And this type of works expose the underlying mechanism and forces those who act on those type of dumbfuckery to confront their own psychosexual problems rather than project them onto men, women, people, children. And there is the innate inner logic with Scorpio. That is intuitive logic. And that's the type of intuition that those who work for the dark cannot stand. It's a transmutative intuition. Now, what I see in this is something interesting. And my opal is also absorbing some soil, immediately balancing the nervous system, the frequencies, negating curses, the power of the soil to negate curses. Now, this reminds me during COVID, my feet, when I would walk barefoot, they were so dirty with the soil, and I said, probably my feet are aching for soil. And this is where the body itself manifests to what it needs. The soil, it acts as absorbent, neutralizer, tonic. It is life-giving, and those that try to attack life don't like it. It's like vampiric. It's like the soil is like garlic to a vampire. Now here's the thing. In those secret societies, they used to be afraid of women. One time, a friend of my friend that was Mason drove me to the funeral of my friend's grandmother. And he was terrified of women, particularly intuitive women. And he was so terrified that for him to drive me there, it was an hour drive, and he was so terrified as if I'm going to do I don't know what to him. And here's the thing, if you're not a warlock, you're not going to meet a succubus, okay? And if you are developing in Tantra, whether you're man or woman, then it's important to learn how to shield your energy. Soil is very important in that regard. So women themselves are not scary, but what they teach in Masonry is warlocking, and this is where a person can attract women. It's not about even law of attraction. It's simply like, if you are warlocky, you will not make it possible for a woman to live around your field if she's not a witch, and not a benefic witch. Because even if a woman will constantly transmute your energy, which is what I felt like I had to do with my friend, because if a woman constantly balances you, she never gets to relax into you. Now, also, if a woman is constantly needing you to balance her, she never gets to relax, and you never get to feel like you are a provider because you're drained. If a woman has soil, then she connects with that soil. She waters the soil, she balances her nervous system, then she has more balance emotionally. And then she can relax into and so on. And all it takes is for you to not be a dumb fuck warlock or something. And you're pretty good to go. Yes, everybody knows this is true. I don't know why my silver ring with zircons and peridot tends to be almost electric. I don't know why. This is something that brings up whenever I put that ring, it's almost like this attempt immediately to sexually assault me. I don't know why. Because it's stone of joy. And those who have difficulty with joy, sensual joy, those that don't enjoy seeing a woman enjoying, and or a man enjoying, okay, for that record, they have big problems with that crystal. Now again, it's not about blaming. It's like, hey, if, as long as they don't try to act on those things, to try to assault, to try to rape, to try to prevent a person from, then they can just deal with their psychosexual issues. And I guess I'm going to bring the Malachite close to that. Because usually there's a good reason why they feel those feelings, but if they act on those feelings and try to assault, then they're already perpetrators. And in that case, they will be forced to deal with their psychosexual problems uh, because this is an energy boundary, and then they will have to have a crisis or existential, psychosexual existential crisis with themselves. And here Malachite is very good because instead of getting into attacks and back to sender and back to this and back to that, or even killing or letalities, it just absorbs the energy and forces them to go to this existential crisis with themselves around why they do that and transmute the energy without assaulting others. Fantastic work for Scorpio. Horrible for Nazis. Okay, those who are reliant on being Nazis, this is very bad for them. And I attach the snowflake obsidian. Now here is the thing. Those type of crystals, they are going to draw from within ourselves also our own psychosexual issues and what needs to be transmuted within ourselves. If we are eager for that process, because we are eager to purge and transmute, and people with many placements in Scorpio can have this eagerness to purge, to transmute, okay, to rid themselves of their own baggage. And that can be a very liberating process. And then we might also see that the attacks begin to a little bit intensify because those are people that feel disempowered to begin with, is why they attack. And then we're doing them a wu wei, we're doing them a transmutation of energy. Okay, think about the Eastern martial art, and I'm getting with the energy around the root chakra. Yes, particularly the social engineers that are going for trying to traffic people or trying to decide where will people be and so on and so forth. Now, what will happen? A person might be at that place, but they will do energy transmutation. Oh, I feel that it pulls energy from the throat chakra, but when I put it underneath the chair, interesting. It's intuitive energy work. Okay? Now here's the thing, they also use a computer interface or something like that, etherical, whatnot. I'm not an expert on that. But this thing works on that too because it's frequency. And they may try to intensify because it's like a vacuum. It pulls everything. You know, when we would treat the skin, like for acne and stuff, oh, Venus, Venus. Then with essential oils, then at first they can be increase of the acne because it pulls all the toxins. With energy work, it can be like that as well. It pulls all the toxins and then as it pulls all the toxins, it forces energy transmutation. And this is ethical because for the ones going through the Scorpio transit, anyway that's going to happen, so we work with the tools that are facilitating that. We just agree to work with nature, not against it. And this is including our own nature. Now, for those that had undergone intense ritual abuse, it's going to pull out the ritual abuse, which sounds very sexy, but it's also yes, but it's also a process of vacuuming of trauma out of the body, detox. So there can be intensification, and then it's like it's pulling some threads out of the body. And oh my God, I bought my coffee on time. Now there's so many people that I would need to pull out my disability card. I never pull out my disability card. Never ever. The only time I would really need that would be if I would go to like the actual, welfare or something like that. But there they don't accept disability card because we're all disabled. And they also don't have chairs. So, yeah. Now, I'm one of those people where the disability is not visible. The people where the disability is visible, they have other problems because people mistreat them because of their visible disability. Dumb fuckery. The people that the disability is invisible, they only get mistreated when they need to pull up the disability card. But don't ever mess with person who has disability, visible or invisible, and don't ask them why you don't work. First of all, they do. Okay, not hiddenly. Or they're preparing the soil for actually growing something. So whether they work paid or they work in the soil, okay? And secondly, they are going to pull the threads from underneath your psyche. Okay? Because all of their traumas from the maladaptive working sector and economy are going to be pulled into the depth of the soul. And butterfly effect. Some truly publishes something about the ritual of conception and torturing of clones. So, well, that it's in the light is actually helpful. A lot of people are litigated for war crimes now They're gonna need to explain why they weren't conscious doing that, or why it wasn't their choice. And they're not gonna have there was only obeying orders standing in their favor, but they are going to have to deal with the psychosexual problems that made them even more susceptible to mind control and targeting individuals using no-touch torture, and or other types, which is a good line of defense, but they will also have to explain the world what they were doing. Yeah. Still, I believe it's not impossible. And really hardly anything like working with soil. Now we got here snowflake, obsidian, malachite, pulling the thread from the attacks on that peridot and zircon's silver ring. Peridot is associated with joy. So people that have problem to see a woman happy or a man happy, some men are attacked by women, okay, because women were also tortured in those ways, and they would run into such women. So it's both shadow work. Like, from my perspective, I tend to ritual abuse, I tend to diseconomy, all these things that are bothering me from having a good life, good relationship, good business. And while I address my own shadow work as well, then it's also the things that are collective shadow or collective things that need to be addressed. And this is a part of journey, okay, transmutation journey. So very likely when I was infant, even though I was born natural birth, there were rituals done on me, on maybe my parent, and so on. And I'm learning as I'm growing to transmute that because it was something that was so unconscious, because who would have thought about that? So now I'm 41 years old, holding a piece of soil with some energy crystals and pulling threads of psychic attacks or whatnot that are forced to transmute. Perhaps some billionaire will have an regeneration. Let's. Who knows? So, if so, then dividends are accepted. Now, I don't know what is about that silver ring that is so strong, the energy. Because I think peridot is energy of joy of the heart. And they try to assault me sexually, so I will not have joy of the heart. It comes from their own traumas that they were, I guess, assaulted in that way. But this, I guess, creates some sort of a reaction. I think it's like the light creating a friction and reaction. Kind of like a light to vampire. But it's not that they are vampires, it's that they were tortured and they are possessed, or they got dissociated on the conscious level, and they're like entities or dark entities. And this triggers the demons within them, very simply put, very literally, actually. Something I completely was not aware of. So it triggers the demons within them, and then they are irritated, and those demons try to assault me for triggering them. They might even some experience it as if I'm attacking them, which is absolutely wrong. But this is because I stir up their triggers and traumas. And holding those crystals is like doing energy transmutation. It's like in energy martial arts that brings peace. So instead of assaulting one another, we address the issue. Now again, when people work with like essential oils, energy crystals, they carry certain frequencies. They're transmutating in frequencies. And people go through transformation by just being next to them. People have a lot of Scorpio placements. By the way, also quite some Virgo placements can cause that, because sidereally this is Leo. So this is fire energy sidereally, and it's a fire of transmutation. I noticed a lot of Virgo people would always go through transformation. Not only those that have the Pluto-Uranus in their chart that is very transforming, like it's sounds almost addictive, but then one needs to ground themselves. But also other types of Virgos with other ages that don't have Pluto and Uranus there, I noticed they're like a fire of transmutation. And indeed, they have this energy that for them it can be felt as excess energy, and then for the people around them it can be invigorating. Not as energy vampires, but as inspiration. So sidereally, Virgo and Scorpio are Libra and Leo, which would be fire and air. Not the way we are used to think about Scorpio tropically. Now, pulling that energy out, there is both a balance between staying and transmuting. Okay, it's a fixed sign. It's not a mutable sign in its essence, but it's the staying fixed and allowing the transmutation to happen from within. And this can stir up people's demons so deeply because it's Scorpio, that all of their secret fears that are so secretive that are even secret to themselves rise to the surface. And here's the thing with Scorpio, it's usually considered a private. But if the Scorpio was invasive or trafficky or dabbling in the depths of the psyche of another, it rises up to meet the sun. Okay? And it's happening from the very innate quality of the Scorpio placement of the native. It's going to feel, and this is why the Scorpio sometimes feels eager for control over something that's not them, particularly about exposure. But the only thing that thrives in privacy is birthing something beautiful. Anything that is not that does not thrive in privacy, and then Scorpio itself, the Scorpio placement itself would transmute it in the native, in the chart of the person, not even the people around them, not even the transits. This is why it's not to blame what the other person, and for me learning astrology was very calming, because it is experienced like another person, but is something coming to transmute within the energy field of one's own persona. Okay, for example, if I talk about sexual sovereignty, then everything not on a line of sexual sovereignty will be pulled, the threads will be pulled from my psyche out. And they will be pulled together with those threads within those who place them there. And that is coming to be transmuted in the light. Because we're talking about the water of the well, we're talking about something that is looking into the abyss, not knowing what we may find or if the water is clear or polluted, and Scorpio will Scorpio until the water is clear. You think that Virgoians are good cleaners? Scorpio will clean those stains that are there for centuries. And they will not be satisfied until they've purged all the dirt. This is why for Scorpio it's better to transmute than to revenge. Because revenge they perpetuate, but then they will feel like they need to purge. But if they perpetuate, this will just keep them in cycles. They're not good for them. But to work with the soil and the water, to transmute, this is the best for Scorpio, because then the water is clear and they reach such depth of the human psyche in the light that there is a richness of experience and joy of living and clarity in their lives and sovereignty. It's the inner depths of the psyche. Now there's a calling for me to put a lavender. So this is lavender time. I have some geranium here. Geranium herb. I'm going to put it with the soil. Geranium is very nourishing. And when we add it to the soil, now the soil is a bit warm, I'm going to put some air in the soil, refresh it. But I feel like the soil needs to return to the soil because it has absorbed so much. And yet, yeah. Now the scorpionic process requires time, presence, and intuition. The Scorpio will have the urge to do the right thing. And this is where I'm going to release that soil into the soil and take my crystals. Oh yeah. There is more process, and there is also repetitiveness to the process. So we'll continue. We'll stop this recording and we'll continue later.